Hello and welcome to the Beatport podcast. My name's High Class Filter, and on today's show, I'll be chatting to one of the most renowned production duos in drum and bass, Camo and Krooked. After taking a year off from releasing music following the release of their Mosaic album, Camo and Krooked have returned in 2019 with a string of new singles, including their new collab with Mephius entitled Callisto. I caught up with Camo and Krooked and spoke about their much-awaited return to releasing music, working with Hospital Records after a 6-year break, and how they go about putting together their incredible live show. Before we get into the interview, I'm starting you off with Callisto from Camo and Krooked with Mephius, out now on Hospital Records.
Beatport podcast.
You're listening to the Beatport podcast with me, High Class Filter, and I'm joined now over the phone by Camo and Krooked. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello, all good.
Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really good. So thanks for coming on the show today. So what's been happening in the world of Camo and Krooked?
Everything's really nice. We've been really busy over the summer, not only with festivals, but as well with making new music, because we are fully back again on the production side of things. For almost a year, really found our spot with a new software called Beatport, and now we are really on the attack and making new material like every day.
It kind of seemed like you took a step back from releasing music in 2018.
Yeah, I think, when you release a full album, and especially with Mosaic, which came out in 2017, a full-length record really takes a lot of energy and creativity out of you. And we feel always after an album, there's time to kind of reset yourself. And as Rainy already said, we switched DAWs from FL Studio to Bitwig, so that was actually quite a big step, because obviously there's a learning curve to every software that you newly acquire. Especially with a sequencer, it is quite a lot of things that change, especially the whole workflow, how you make music. And I think that's what took a lot of time for us in 2018. That was one of the main reasons why we didn't release much music. For us, it was the right time to properly rethink some production aspects, how we start certain things, how we approach certain sounds, and how we create them. And they actually fundamentally changed. And now it feels like we are up there where we wanted to be again. Because, things change so fast. There's such a fast pace in terms of production skills within the drum bass scene. And you don't want to be subpar. You always want to be up there, with the best guys, making the best sounding stuff out there.
So it's been a learning experience the last year or so, has it?
Yeah, we have never been lazy. It was just that we didn't release that much music, but we put all the time into learning how to make the music, how it should sound for 2019, and now we really found our spot again where we are happy with and are ready to make the music we want to release finally. Because like Marcus said, you want to be up there, and when you feel like you have to up your skills before you can release something that really matters, and that takes lots of time. And especially after an album, you have so much touring going on, and you don't have that much time to make music. So you have to put your time into learning new techniques and just getting your skills where you want them to be.
I mean, so you started off this year with your new track Atlas on UKF, and you followed that up with Lower, and now you've got Callisto coming with Nepheus. What made you decide to release your new tracks as a series of singles rather than an EP or working towards a new album?
I think when you release a single, you can do something totally different with every single release. And when you write an album or an EP, the tunes sometimes have to sound coherent, or at least for us, that's the way, We always try to have kind of a string going through all the tunes that we make if they're a bundle, like an EP or LP. But with the singles, we can make stuff that actually we feel like making, that would actually probably not have a space on an album or an EP, but they stand out on their own. They are really good tracks on their own. And this gives us so much more freedom of creativity as well, because now we can say, okay, you know what? We make a full-on dance floor banger that we haven't actually done in a long time. And it's a lot of fun for us to write, and it still has our trademark sound and everything in there. So I think for us it's just really freeing in a way, because I would say since 2011 we only worked in the LP context always when we made music, and that actually can be quite limiting after a while, I have to say. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've been cooking up so many different things, different styles in drum bass, and honestly I haven't had that much fun making music in a while.
Yeah, it's true as well. Making an album is a proper pain, finishing an album is super hard. And with Mosaic, we had 17 tunes on there, and especially in the last couple of months, with every session we learned a new trick, and then we had to apply that new mix technique onto every other tune. Like when you learn something new with one tune, you had to apply it on the 16 different other tunes, and that just takes so much time and nerves. And so you're just wandering around in circles, more or less, updating your mix downs. And when you release singles, you can fully concentrate like a month in advance before you have to finish it, like on this one tune, and you're getting it on the standard you want to have it, and you don't have to care about everything else anymore. And that's really like, that gave us way more freedom, and just it's way more chilled for us to work as well.
When we start an album, it probably takes us 2 to 3 years to finish it, you know, from the point of where you kind of know what you're gonna do, set a certain like style and sounds that you're happy with that can go through the whole record. And at that time so many things happen, and suddenly you're off the radar, and people actually forgot about you, whereas it's like, hello, I'm still here with like 17 tunes in the bag, which is actually probably way too many nowadays. Yeah. Because it feels like people are just skipping through most of the stuff anyways. I mean, we actually catch ourselves skipping to the drop, or you know, the second drop. And I mean, when we approach a full record, we like to really put in the effort to make a good intro, outro, breakdown, nice transitions into the next tune and stuff. And it feels that it's kind of an art form that is almost lost and gone, because the people they need their adrenaline rush on the tunes. They need to, you know, kind of have as much as possible in the shortest amount of time. And as much as we hate that, and we fought for a long time against it, from a career standpoint, you kind of have to say, okay, you can't really be off the radar for another 3 years from one album to the next one, you know.
And how was it working together with Mephius on the new single?
We have made a tune with Mephius before called Mandala, which worked out really well. And this time it was pretty similar, actually. Like for the next tune, Callisto, we had this basic idea where we felt it was cool but not good enough. And you know, we're always talking with Mephius, showing him our clips. And this was the one he was like, yeah man, I'm feeling this, where are you going with this? And we have been like, we are not sure, it's not quite there yet. So we sent it to him, and he kept working on it, and we figured out it was going somewhere. So he really added his style to the tune, and we really merged like our two approaches on making music, and kept working on it, improving it. And I think now in the end it became really good. And it feels like a really epic tune as well. We went to meet him at his studio and been working further on this tune, and actually started another collab, and we'll do more and more in the future, because it always works out that great. Because, you know, it's not only like we are not only producer friends, we really became good friends, and always having super much fun in the studio as well, and that helps.
Yeah, and also I have to say, there's a really nice musical and sonical middle ground that we have with Martin, with Mephius. It kind of feels really not forced, you know, when we merge the styles, because sometimes when you're sitting with somebody in the studio, it's like, I can't really get where I want to, because the other half is probably like, no, that's too far out there for me, or, you know, it doesn't really fit my style. And when we work with Mephius, it's never like that. We kind of always find the perfect middle ground that everyone is happy with. Obviously, there are some struggles sometimes on decisions, how to do things, but the outcome is always great. And as Reini said, that's definitely not going to be the last collab with Martin. There's actually a few more we are already working on.
always think of you guys as being producers who are pushing the boundaries of drum and bass and, you know, what drum and bass can be. I was reading that Loa was inspired by Haitian sounds and Haitian music. How did you come across those influences and how did you go about working them into the track?
We're always trying to find something new that we haven't really used and that nobody else is using, because at some point drum bass tunes, there are a couple formulas and everybody like sticks to one of those formula, even the dance floor smasher or the liquid tune or the roller or the jump up tune. And we always try to do something that is like a little bit out there. And this time we have been lucky enough and found the perfect vocal, because the tune already had this tribal vibe going on. So we have been searching especially for that vocal more or less and been lucky enough to find it. So we are browsing through the whole internet searching for the one sample that you then can hopefully clear and just gives the tune the extra vibe more or less.
We have tried to make a tune like that for years actually. There's some certain tunes that we kept coming back from different music genres, like Ricardo Villalobos Arild, I think that was released on a Cocoon compilation a few years ago, or some Deadbeat tunes, I think it's called Groundation, Berkheim Drum Jack. Those are really like percussive techno tunes actually. And we really like this kind of stuff, and nobody has done it in drum bass. So in the beginning it was a real struggle to actually get something going that has this certain vibe without it just sounding like a complete clusterfuck, you know. Then we were like, okay, there's this certain like sound going that actually makes sense, but it's missing something. And then we just started, as Ryan said, browsing Spotify and Amazon for actual Haitian singers. I played this one track there at the same time as our beat was running, and it was perfect. And then it kind of just, you know, we bought the tune, we put it in, and then we immediately told hospital guys, we need to get this cleared because we love this vocal so much. And the hospital did an amazing job clearing the vocals there. And yeah, the whole tune then came together super fast. The vocal was really the missing link in the whole tune. And then the whole marimba intro came in and everything. It really formed the vibe, you know.
So when you first started working on the tune, it was quite tricky to get that vibe right. Was it hard to fit all that kind of percussion into a drum and bass tempo or drum and bass framework?
Yeah, you know what? These, besides a few little fills, they are all percussion one-shots. So we all set them by hand. Every single percussion, set them by hand. Like draw the MIDI in and just move it a little bit in terms of quantization, so to make it feel more human. Also the arrangement of the percussions, you know, to kind of make some sort of, to make sense in terms of tonality. That was probably the hardest piece of work in that tune. And also because there is no real kick snare pattern that you usually follow in drum bass. It's a really different pattern there as well. What definitely helped is we made this tune called Witch Doctor in 2017 for our Mosaic album. And that had a different, a similar vibe. So we were like, we kind of want to do something in that vein, but more techno-y and, you know, more percussive. Like drawing in all these single percussion hits was the biggest pain on that tune by far.
You mentioned earlier that you've moved over to using Bitwig for production. What made you decide to change your production software? Because it must be quite tricky changing over when you've been using a certain piece of software for a long time. Was it kind of like starting from the beginning again?
Not really starting from the beginning, because our live show was running like for a while on Ableton. So we had like loads of experience with Ableton, and Bitwig is kind of like Ableton, but for us, like it feels a little bit more professional, a little bit more open, and a little bit more exact. And it felt like from the moment we tried it, it felt so right. And coming from Fruity Loops, finishing a whole big album in Fruity Loops, which was such a pain, and it was a relief from day one, more or less, switching the DAW. Felt so happy. And obviously it takes some time to get your workflow right, but now it's like every time we open it, like in the morning when we start our producing day, it's like, I love this, and it's just so much more handy. It feels like it's made for us. So there's nothing now. There's really nothing we can't do. We're huge fans, and we are actually really thankful that Bitwig came along and made our life so much more easier and producing so much more fun.
What's your process like in the studio? Do you usually work together, or do you send each other ideas?
Actually, we never sit together in the studio. So we have like a mirrored system more or less, and we have separate studios, and we work more or less like an assembly line more or less. We are always working on the same time on different aspects of a tune, which is way better, because for us, when you sit together in the studio, you always have to wait till the other one finishes his idea, and like finishing your vision takes so much time to get it right. You rather have like your freedom and just be able to take your time, and nobody sitting beside you waiting to take his turn. So most of the time Markus starts an idea, and when he kind of likes where it could be going to, he sends it over to me, and then we both try to get it like as good as possible, like most of the time get a drop going more or less, and see who is getting the better approaches going. And then if somebody gets something right, we then continue working on that project, and always like getting step ahead.
Exactly. So there's even a tiny bit of competition going on between us, who can make the most out of this project that we work from. And then we decide always mutually which one's the better one, which can sometimes end up in a little argument. But it's good because it keeps a certain flow going, it keeps us energized and wants us to do better maybe than the other half. So we really push ourselves.
As producers who have been working together for over 10 years, how do you keep finding new ways to be inspired and carry on learning new things in the studio?
I think there is like loads of stuff we are inspired by still. There are so many ideas, but some are just hard to turn over, because for the drum bass community, most of the time a tune has to bang, has to be in your face. And in the best case, it has to work on the floor. And that's always hard, because some of our ideas are inspired by some minimal techno or whatever, some more vibey music. And we have lots of ideas laying around which are a vibe, but we feel like we could never play it in the club. And at some point we really try to specialize on music that is a vibe, but in the same time you can drop it at a party, because that's where your new music, this is where your new dubs connect to the people. And when you finish the music that you can, a tune that you can play out, it's twice as rewarding, because you have the intermediate connection with the crowd and see how they react to the music, and that's what we love. So I mean, we will definitely release some experimental music, lots of it soon. But at the moment, we feel like we rather release and make something that you can play in the club.
Exactly, and I think Loa is a perfect example of that middle ground. It has a musical depth, and the arrangement is kind of like a song arrangement, but at the same time it really works on the dance floor. And this is what we like to do, because with drum bass it always feels, especially nowadays, if you don't have the loudest fork horn noise in there, or just the craziest screechy sounds, people won't react to it. But to every pole there's an anti-pole, so you kind of can come up with a complete different approach. And we are into music that has a different approach, like all minimal techno, tech house stuff. It has really beautiful build-ups and then drops with a super simple beat, but it has an emotion and energy, and that's sometimes the thing we are missing in drum bass. There's stripped back emotion and the energy of the suppleness, and this is where we like our sounds to be. I think our key, and why we always kind of aim for the next thing that hasn't been done, is because we listen to everything, just not drum bass at home. We don't want to be inspired by the music that we actually make. Because then it's kind of like musical incest. You go down a rabbit hole, and you will only be inspired by the things that already exist in your own genre. It's always good to always kind of respect your own genre, but at the same time, don't be only inspired by the thing that you make.
Because it will just sound like something that already exists.
Exactly. it becomes really interesting for us when you bring like new rhythms and new sounds from other genres that are sometimes super simple and really pure into drum bass, because drum bass most of the time is not pure and simple. It's gritty as hell, and it's full on, and there's definitely another side to drum bass that can show a completely different perspective.
It's been 6 years since Zeitgeist, and that was your last release on Hospital. What was it that made you want to come back to releasing with Hospital for your latest singles?
We always had a good time with Hospital, but we felt we have to move on. Just, spread your wings and see what's on the other side, which was really nice. We had a great time with BMG and Ram and like forming our Mosaic label, releasing the Mosaic album. But how things have been moving overall for us and for them, it felt really nice to come back to the Hospital boys, because we have been with them over a good amount of time and it always felt safe. And they have been friendly and connected with us, even that we decided to split parts with them, and that's what we really valued. We still met and have been in touch, and there was always lots of respect involved on both sides, and that made us come back. And as well, the label, from my perspective, it's the biggest and best drum bass label there is at the moment. When you're with a major label, you are like a small wheel in a big system, and with Hospital we feel like we can really add to their roster, and they respect that, and they can really as well help us growing again, because you have a good team that works in drum bass, and we really like the scene, and that's where our audience is.
We always played the Hospitalities, even when we were not signed to their label. We always played at their shows, and to be honest, for me, they are the best drum bass shows out there. The crowd, and especially meeting all the artists in the backstage that are signed to Hospital Records, for me, they are the friendliest bunch out there. There's always such a good time there. There's a certain aura that you don't get on any other drum bass party. I would have missed that,
Yeah.
You kind of want to be part of that. I mean, there's so many nice people also working there. And also Tony, he's an amazing musician, Tony Coleman, London Electricity. It's good to have somebody like that as a label boss who really understands music, who gets the idea behind it, and who actually pushes you to make stuff that is not generic but actually really creative. And that is exactly what we were looking for, because we're not going to make the next big radio banger or something like that. We always try to make something that is just cool and different, and this is what Hospital are really looking for in us. And I think that's also why when we sent them lower, we actually weren't signed to Hospital yet, and they were like, okay, we really need this tune. And because of that reaction, we knew, okay, actually we think Hospital is the right choice, because if they are looking for exactly that sound, then it definitely feels right for us. You know, they won't push us in any direction or anything. They just will let us make something that is super creative, and that's what we really appreciate about Hospital Records.
You've been really well known in the past as well for your live shows. Can you take me through how much work goes into developing a Camo and Krooked live show?
It's more than we want to admit, more or less. You know, the first one was pretty simple, and then came the Zeitgeist live show, which was already like kind of a huge hassle. So many cables, like so many like instruments and MIDI controllers and stuff. It's really hard to get everything going. You know, you have the sound check, and there's always something that doesn't work. So there's always troubleshooting involved under time pressure. And that's a feeling that's not nice. And then with the Mosaic show, with the newest one, it really escalated more or less, because it was, again, way bigger, way more complex. And we kind of felt we have learned our lesson before, and we've been like, okay, this time we really keep it simple. But again, it totally blew out of proportion. But then again, you know, you have something special, and, you know, lots of people who make a live show, they have somebody to take care of it and make the concept and make sure everything is running. In our case, we make everything on our own. So if there's something not working, it's on us to fix it, more or less. That's what we have to do most of the time, like before each season, have to remember how everything is set up, and obviously preparing all the audio and get all the stamps going, play all the synths. And yeah, the last live show for this season is this weekend at Pukkelpop. So yeah, that's always when you feel super confident you are about to hit the last show for the season.
Yeah, just to give you a little insight, the DJ booth, the live booth that we made contains 1,200 meters of cabling inside the booth itself. So just from the instruments, one computer to the other and stuff like that, you know, all the powers.
Audio
cables,
MIDI
USB, MIDI. Yeah, that's 1,200 meters in total. That's crazy. I mean, we started it from scratch because obviously we had some stamps lying around and everything from all the live shows we've done before that. But for the Mosaic show, I think if you started it from scratch, it would take you at least 6 months. Also, we've got a custom MIDI controller done that did exactly what we wanted it to do, which I designed in SketchUp actually, and then sent it to a friend of mine who actually makes modular synths and like modular devices. So he was really into the idea, and he actually made it for us. And yeah, obviously bouncing all the single drum hits and everything for tunes so you can play them live. It's a huge hassle, but we really wanted, same with the music, we just wanted to take our music into kind of another place and not just do the DJ thing that everyone is doing, but actually present the music in a completely different way. Show them how it's done and show them what's behind, so people actually understand it a little bit as well. And also the visuals. I mean, we've been involved into the creation of the visuals full on. We had a kind of a vision of how everything should look like. That took a few months as well. And yeah, I mean, now it's all up and running, and there's only one more live show left. And I mean, I'm kind of sad but happy at the same time.
And do you have any ambitions for what you'd like to do with your live show in future?
We have two approaches for the live show. The first one is just take like, you know, take a small version of it on the road, because like one of the biggest pains with a live show is the logistics. Obviously you have to have like a team of people traveling with car, bringing all the equipment there, and that's obviously super expensive. So we thought maybe we take like the core of it that we can travel with, like, you know, only in our backpacks and stuff like that, or maybe make a hybrid between the show and the DJ set. Overall, I think for now we are super happy how it worked out. But you know, the thing is, like, when you put so much time into your live show, you feel like that's all time you could like invest in making new music. and that's what hurts a little bit, because we rather make new material.
Yeah, the hybrid between DJing and the live thing is actually something that kind of started the whole idea. It actually existed before the Mosaic show. So we are able to kind of read out the data from the CDJs and then do anything with the metadata. So we can even use like the Ableton Link protocol to sync Bitwig onto the CDJs. And for example, when a certain tune is being triggered and a certain timestamp from the CDJ, it can also trigger some clip on top in Bitwig. It's perfectly in sync and everything. You can even play around with the pitch on the CDJ and Bitwig will stay in sync as well. So we could do a semi-live approach, which is really interesting for us as well, because as Rani said, you can put that thing into the backpack. It's basically one laptop and maybe a MIDI controller, and that's about it. And you can do a reduced version of the live show, but still go with the simpleness of the DJ set. What's obviously always good with DJ sets is you have way more freedom of what you're gonna play, because with a live show, obviously we only play Camo Krooked stuff, but with the DJ set we play everything that we like by other artists as well. With this hybrid setup, actually it could open a completely new world. You know, you modulate your own tunes into ways so you can mix other tunes onto it, or even change the tempo so you can mix other genres onto it. It's really cool to have that, but we just didn't have the time yet to fully think about it, how we're gonna approach it so it's ready for the stage.
I love the fact about the 1200 meters of cable, by the way. I love that you worked that out.
Yeah, our manager, by the way, so we have to send a huge shout out to our manager Christian, because he actually put together and was soldering most of the stuff in his flat. He was painting the DJ booth in his flat. And then when the cleaning lady came in, she actually had to call in sick afterwards because it smelled so much of paint in the flat that she couldn't handle it anymore. You know, so he really put all effort into that show. So it was definitely him as well that was in there 110%.
Yeah, and he made it work visually. You know, we have been like obviously responsible for audio and how for the technique, but the visual concept, he made that happen, and it really looks good. I'm super proud about the visual concept and how it looks like.
He found the right team for it, and he really was able to kind of push our ideas to them, and it looked perfect. You know, he was so involved. He definitely knew what we wanted to do the whole time, and it feels like everything that we tried to do actually looked the way we wanted it to, and that hardly ever happens, you know. And if that happens, you afterwards are bankrupt, and thankfully we are not bankrupt because everything is DIY basically, and at the same time it looks amazing. So thanks to Christian.
So we've already discussed the singles that you've put out so far this year. What else is coming up for the rest of 2019?
There's actually another single with Matthews that might be coming out after this one. It's gonna be a part of Matthews' EP, as far as we know.
On Vision, yeah.
On Vision, exactly. It's gonna be the first single of his EP. It's really different as well. It's a 4 to the floor drum bass thing, actually, like a 4 to the floor French house thing, which is really uncommon for both of us, and it's actually one of the highlights of our set. I think Matthews even intros with it at the moment, and he's been super happy. He says the response has been amazing, and it is because it's so different and so surprising. And then actually one thing that we are really happy about is the tune maybe after that, which is not finished yet, but we have a collab with Jeru the Damager, hip-hop legend. That's also a super minimalistic tune, but it has a dance floor approach, and that's one of our highlights of the set, I have to say. That probably has the biggest reaction of the whole set when we play. And after that, we have a few things actually lined up. We don't know which one's going to be coming out then. You know, it's nice to be able to choose of what we're going to finish and then release. But yeah, those things are, first of all, the ones we are really happy about. And that's going to be until, I think, November maybe. And then we'll see.
We have enough material and we are not in a rush. That's the good thing now with making singles and have enough time to make music. Because we always felt like with making an album, yeah, you're behind, you know, you're always being stressful and getting things out there. But now we're trying to release a single like every 2 months, and you're always staying like on top of things, and always be relevant, and always can show people where you're at the moment, and not have to hold back on your music for so long. And it's exciting and feels really nice without putting too much stress onto your shoulders.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been really great chatting to you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Beatport Podcast.
Thanks again to Camo Krooked for joining me on the show today. Their new single with Mephius is out now. For the rest of the show, I'll be getting into the mix to some of my favourite new drum and bass releases, starting you off with a new track from Alibi called Catalyst.
on some dopey vibe. Girl flex, red pan mic, finger pan decks. So book me if you have to see a bad man step. Come correct, show some respect. Me say, girl no, finger and the red that I go mash out the show. Took it to another level long time ago. In my killer DJ, Van Dilero. Don't know man, I'm better than bad. Yeah, I got this in the back. I'm the best she ever had. I got the gal them going mad. Sick, nah, I'm no good. But tick, why she lit good like. Don't know man, I'm red already. I'm never going steady. I got the concrete sound that's heavy. I pick it up like Chevy. Us Juliano, us Shelly. The thing so big is I got mash up the belly. Don't know what time it is. That time again. No dibby sound. Let me tell them. Yeah, it's a man a bully in a bed. Fully bully in a bed. Yeah, fully bully. Back it up, then I me go and rock it up. When me dying on the rhythm, don't know me too hot. Guess what? Roll the red and rise to the top. Burn like fire, man a blood clot with a lot. Me say rock it up, you know me go and rock it up. When me dying on the rhythm, don't know me too hot. Guess what? Roll the red and rise to the top. Burn like fire, man a blood clot with a lot. Girl flex, red pan mic, finger pan decks. So book me if you have to see a bad man step. Come correct, show some respect. Me say, girl no, finger and the red that I go mash out the show. Took it to another level long time ago. In my killer DJ, Van Dilero.
That was Sam Binger and Redder's Vandalero, given the drum and bass treatment from one of this year's breakout producers, Particle. Up next we got a track taken from the new Jetstar Meets Hospital release, which features artists from the Hospital Records roster remixing classic reggae and dancehall tunes. This one's the New Tone remix of Barrington Levy's classic Here I Come.
Brand new. Radical, hear ya. New soul, let's go. I get it understand. Turn up all in the place and set this. Jaro, so we deal with it. Put them down right now, you know. Ricky too far, and that's how we are dropping. Here one more, Freddy. Run the check, turn up all the way, come on, brother.
That's all I got time for on today's show. You've been listening to the Beatport podcast with me, High Class Filter. I'm leaving you with a new track from Soundboy Killer, taken from his new album out this month on Sneaker Social Club. This one's called All Night Long.
Beatport Podcast.